There are moments in life, twisted fragments of time, that cling to your memory like a dark shadow. Everyone has at least one. For some, it's the bright, searing image of planes crashing into towers on a crisp September morning. For others, it's a president falling to a sniper's bullet. But for me, my moment was on a cold, unforgiving January evening. It was the day my parents died. I wouldn't wish that kind of pain on anyone, not even in the deepest, blackest corners of my mind. And if you've felt that hollow ache, that piercing scream of grief that never comes out, then you already know how it burrows into your bones. A part of me never escaped that night, the part that had once felt warm and safe. The car slid off the road, skidding on the ice, and crashed into the embankment. It was almost instant, almost. But death doesn't always come as cleanly as you hope. I was at the bar with a few friends, a casual evening. A warm drink in my hand, the hum of laughter surrounding me. Then came the phone call. The police, their voices flat and metallic over the line, giving me the news. It hit me like a weight, dragging me down into some bottomless void. The world blurred around me, distant lights flickering in and out, but none of it mattered. Nothing made sense anymore. The funeral was cold, just like the weather. My brother, Joe, and I were left to go through their house, a house that once breathed life, but now felt suffocating, thick with memories that clung to the walls. We had to decide its fate, sell it, rent it out, or let the bank claim its ghost. When we stepped inside, the smell hit me first. The familiar scent of my childhood, a mix of old wood and something sweet, something that used to feel comforting but now felt wrong. The kind of smell that reminds you of simpler times, of Christmas mornings with bright lights and gifts, like a Nintendo 64 waiting under the tree. Those days felt like someone else's life now, something distant, foggy, fading fast. Joe and I split up, trying to make the task bearable. He took the attic and upstairs. I took the basement and the main floor. I still had that irrational fear of the basement, the way it seemed to swallow light, how the stairs creaked and groaned like they were hungry. When I was 8, I tumbled down those same stairs, snapping both my legs and a wrist in the process. The memory of the fall still sat in my mind, sharp as glass. Hours passed as I picked through what remained of our family's life, old photos, trinkets, holiday decorations. When I finally gathered the courage, I opened the door to the basement. The narrow staircase stretched down into the dark, waiting for me. I hesitated, memories flashing in my mind, falling pain, the sick crunch of bones, one step at a time. The musty air wrapped around me as I descended. It was colder down there, always colder. A single small window allowed a sliver of light, casting long shadows. There, beneath the window, a framed photo of my parents hung like a silent sentinel. My father always talked about turning the basement into a cozy family room, but all he ever got around to was that photo. I turned my attention to a stack of old boxes under the stairs, dust collecting thick on their surfaces, untouched for years. I pulled up a rickety wooden chair and started going through them, one by one. The first was just old holiday decorations, Christmas lights, broken Halloween masks. I set it aside and dragged the next one closer. Inside, I found a binder, its pages filled with my old Pokémon cards. For a fleeting second, I smiled. It felt strange, out of place. But that's what grief does. It sneaks in moments like these, distracting you, pulling you away from the edge, just for a moment. As I neared the end of the stack, I thought that was it. Nothing left but cracked plates and forgotten pieces of our old life. But then I saw it. A small brown box, hidden deep in the shadows, tucked behind the stairs as if it didn't want to be found. I crawled on my hands and knees to retrieve it, dust clinging to my skin. It hadn't been touched in years, decades, maybe. As I wiped the dust away, a chill ran through me. Something about it felt wrong, like it had been waiting for me. I opened the box slowly, and there they were, a set of unmarked videotapes, each one staring back at me like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Something about them felt off, but my curiosity took hold. Without thinking, I grabbed my old Pokemon binder and the other items I thought were worth keeping, carefully placing them into the same box as the tapes before heading upstairs. When I emerged from the basement's suffocating darkness, the harsh light of the room greeted me, along with Joe lounging on the couch, smoking a cigar. The thick smell of it filled the air, making me feel uneasy. "Took you long enough," Joe muttered with a smirk, exhaling a cloud of smoke. "Where'd you get those cigars? You don't even smoke," I asked, unsettled. "Found them upstairs. High-quality stogies, TJ. I think Dad was saving them for something special." The thought of him puffing away on cigars Dad had saved for some grand occasion made my skin crawl. Less than a week since our father was buried, and Joe was already treating it all like a joke. I sat next to him, placing the box on the coffee table. The dust it carried seemed to linger in the air, unsettling. "Why would you put that dusty-ass box on this good table, TJ?" Joe asked, wrinkling his nose. I just shrugged, smirking. "Check this out, my old Pokemon binder. I bet some of these cards are worth something now." "Yeah, sure," Joe scoffed. "You could probably make a whole 5 cents off that junk. What a great investment, TJ." Ignoring him, I set the binder aside and pulled out one of the videotapes, feeling its weight in my hand. "Look at these," I said, waving the tape. "Want to watch some old home movies? Bet they're cringier than we remember." Joe glanced at the tape with mild interest, then rolled his eyes. "Yeah, sure, let's pop it in the VHS player." "Oh wait, it's 2017, TJ. No one uses those anymore." He had a point, but I had a secret. "Actually, I know where we can play these." I bolted upstairs to my old room, a grin spreading across my face. The room was empty now, a hollow shell of what it once was, but I knew exactly where to look. In the back of my closet, behind a hidden panel I'd rigged when I was younger, I'd stashed a secret compartment. Back then, I used it for hiding things. Things I didn't want Mom and Dad to find, and inside, an old VHS player, forgotten for years. I ran back downstairs, holding it above my head triumphantly. "Thank God I was a smart little pervert," I laughed. Joe glanced at me with a raised eyebrow. "Great, you found the VHS player, but how the hell are you gonna plug it into this TV? You gonna science the crap out of it?" He had another point, but I wasn't out of tricks yet. "Did you find an older TV when you were upstairs?" "Yeah," he said, the sarcasm still dripping from his voice. "Perfect." We went upstairs, grabbed the old television, and brought it back down. The ancient thing groaned as I plugged it in, connecting the VHS player like it was some kind of relic. I popped in the first tape, stepping back as the blue screen flickered to life. "Want to place a bet? I'm guessing it's footage of your 10th birthday when you pissed your pants because of the clown," I teased. "Shut up, TJ," Joe grumbled, though a trace of a smile tugged at his lips. But that smile quickly faded. The video started. The screen was grainy, the image almost lost to time. At first, there was only darkness, but soon we could make out movement slow, deliberate, like something was lurking just beyond the edges of the frame. "What is this? Some kind of creepy low-budget snuff film?" Joe joked, but there was unease in his voice. Then, without warning, the darkness lifted. The light flickered on, and there they were, figures dressed in white coats, their faces obscured by masks. They moved with eerie precision, like puppets on invisible strings. In the center of the room was a body, a young boy, lifeless, covered in a black tarp. His small arms and legs hung limply off the sides of the table he was laid upon. "What the actual hell is this?" Joe whispered, leaning forward, his voice trembling. "Turn it off. This is some kind of illegal underscore." But I couldn't. I was frozen, my breath caught in my throat as the scene unfolded. The figures in white nodded to each other, and then another figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall, unnaturally tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more. It moved towards the body, its long, spindly arms reaching out, its face hidden beneath the same white mask. "Turn it off, TJ." Joe was practically shouting now, his voice thick with panic. But I couldn't look away. The video continued playing, its grainy, sinister images burning into my mind. Something was wrong, so very, very wrong, but I had to see what happened next. It was lanky, grotesque. The thing looked like it hadn't known the warmth of life for centuries. Its arms hung low, almost scraping the ground with each movement, and its neck stretched unnaturally long, giving way to a comically small head. It barely resembled anything human. As it moved, slow and deliberate, it loomed over the lifeless body of the boy, circling like a predator claiming its prey. Its leg crept onto the bed where the child lay, 3 bony toes barely visible in the grainy footage, though it could have been the poor quality of the tape. Joe and I sat paralyzed as this creature, this thing, seemed to savor its proximity to the boy's still body. But the real horror began when it leaned in closer, its long, thin, purple tongue slithering from its mouth, dragging slowly across the boy's cheek like some sick ritual. "Turn it off, TJ," Joe screamed, his voice cracking with panic. But I couldn't. I was mesmerized, unable to tear myself away. Whatever this was, it was like nothing I had ever seen before. The creature's tongue slid down the boy's face and neck, serpentine in its motions, before one of its clawed hands pressed down on the boy's head. Though squatting, the thing was so tall, it looked like it was standing over him, limbs stretched in a way that defied reason. Joe, unable to take it anymore, lunged at the TV and shut it off. "I told you to turn this _off. This has to be illegal, TJ. We need to show this to the cops. Why the hell did Mom and Dad even have this? What is this _?" His voice trembled, but my mind was racing. "That's the big question, isn't it?" I muttered, more to myself than to him. "But we can't just hand these tapes over without knowing what's on them. What if it's some homemade horror flick? They'll laugh at us, Joe. We need to see if this is real." Reluctantly, Joe sat back down, his hands trembling as I rewound the tape to where we left off the creature, hovering over the boy, its hand on his face. As the tape played again, the creature's long, sharp nail traced a line across the boy's cheek, leaving a thin cut, blood slowly seeping out. My stomach twisted, but then my eyes widened as I looked at Joe. "Joe, your scar." Joe's face went pale. The cut on the boy's cheek mirrored the scar on Joe's face, the same scar we'd always believed he got from a childhood bike accident, a story that had been told to us over and over. But now it felt like a lie. "Dude, what the Jew _?" Joe stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "This has to be a coincidence, right?" The tape continued, the creature now gripping the child's leg, dragging its tongue along the boy's skin as though savoring every inch. I felt my pulse quicken, and without thinking, I jumped up, pausing the tape. "Look, Joe, look at the background." My voice was trembling. "What do you see?" "I don't see _TJ. It's just grainy." Joe squinted at the screen, leaning in closer. "Wait, what the hell? Is that a picture?" My blood ran cold. The image in the background, just under the window, was a framed photo. A photo exactly like the one that hung in our basement. The basement that was directly beneath us. My hands shook as I hit play again, my instincts screaming at me to stop. But I couldn't. I had to know. The creature licked the boy's leg one last time before stepping off the bed. It stood straight now, its knuckles touching the floor, its body so tall that its head was out of the camera's view. The 2 figures in white nodded at each other, as though pleased with the creature's grotesque ritual. Then, with a sudden unnatural speed, the creature vanished from the frame. One of the masked figures approached the camera and turned it off. The screen flickered to static. Joe was beside himself, pacing in front of the TV, cursing under his breath. What the underscore was that, TJ? What did we just watch? I didn't have an answer. My eyes fell on the box of tapes beside me, my hands now clammy with fear. There were 3 more tapes inside. But something deep inside me didn't want to see what was on them. I took the first tape out and set it aside, sitting down next to Joe, who looked pale as a ghost. There are 3 more videos, Joe, but Jesus Christ, I'm scared to see what's next. Joe buried his face in his hands, stomping his feet in disbelief. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. But then, that silence was shattered. From the basement below us, we heard a noise, something dragging slowly across the floor. Something moving,